Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Am I there twice?
You are miraculously.
How does one fix that?
Are you on two devices?
No, but it wouldn't connect when I first tried it. So maybe it connected and then I don't know. I'm hopeless. You guys can't get enough of me, I guess.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Right. Well, I have 1:01 p.m. So if you are all ready, Chair Joseph, we could call the meeting to order.
I am ready.
Ooh, that looks magical.
My background?
Your background, yeah.
It's some Disney background. I just found it fun. It's like very earthy. So
Yes.
we needed like a pop of fun. I've seen every bookcase known to man.
So true.
So are we ready?
I believe so, yes. Jake, if you'd like to do the roll call, please.
Sure. I have Chair Joseph
Present.
and Committee Member Davis,
Present.
Committee Member Carrico,
Here.
and we have a new Committee Member Spezrow. Did I say that correct?
Here, yes, Spezrow, correct.
Great, and it looks like we have our last member, Committee Member Khan, just joining us. We're doing roll call, so.
Okay, I'll unmute myself. Hi, I'm here.
All right, we have a full committee today.
When I logged into Zoom, I logged myself out of our notes, our meeting, like the meeting agenda. Hold on just one sec. I believe, aren't you up first, Stephanie, with like a little thing, or no? Is it I'm up first waiting for public comment while I look for it?
Yes, comment comes first on this agenda.
Do we have any public comment this week?
I see no one on the call for public.
Okay. All right, I'm almost there. Okay, I'm back. Okay, and then committee and staff member comments. Well, this is my I will do one of my little things. This is my last meeting with you, and it's been a pleasure on my part to get to know all of you. I know we're going to have our elections today, and it's been 6 years of being on this committee, and I just wanted to share some of my thoughts and my takeaways from my time here. There's some things that I have found that you want to do, and they go much slower than you would like. And there's other things that you'd like to do that just aren't in our purview. And there's other things we still like to do, and they're just not in our budget. And I don't want any of those things to deter you or to make you feel like you're not accomplishing anything. So for myself, I wrote a list of all the things in 6 years that were accomplished and all the things I still yet and want to do. So in your time here, I just want you to not feel frustrated with the things that you want, but maybe not accomplish, or don't feel like maybe it had the impact you had hoped for. However, you're still having impact. And just by showing up here every day and showing up for each other, you will have a greater impact on our community. And that's really something quite special, because so many people won't donate their time, give their goodwill, and help other people. So this is actually an important cause, for the environment, and also an important cause for our community, just by being together. And I really hope that you will take that in the spirit going forward. And a little helper would just be like, no Robert's Rules of Orders. Never have I been so happy to have been done debate in high school than to know Robert's Rules of Order. So that would be my big other parliamentary procedure, if you want to call it that, would be my big takeaway. And I really wish you guys the best going forward. I hope that you will all be supportive of each other and show up for each other. And that's my big wish. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you, Holly, for all of the years that you've contributed to the EPC. I know I've been fortunate to be included in all of those times, and all of your, as I mentioned in the chat, all of your energies and expertise and patience and time that you have put forward and committed to the EPC over the last several years has really shown. And I really truly mean that. I do feel that what you've contributed has made an impact on sustainability efforts throughout the town. So thank you so much. We do appreciate it. And we will miss you. And if you have a change of heart, you know how to get a hold of us. I have confirmed with the city clerk that should you have a change of heart, there will be some openings on the EPC, and if there are no applications submitted, that it would be possible for you to be reappointed if you chose to do so. So keep that in the back of your mind.
I will. After 6 years, I have done a full Senate term. I think I need a little break.
Understood as well.
And you're always welcome to call on me,
Like-
like as a member of the public, to be helpful. If you need like an extra set of hands, or you just want to talk something out, or if you even want to know how things worked in the past, you can do so now.
Yes, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Don't change.
So that was my two cents. And the one thing, my only regret that I wish we could still do is I always wanted to do a survey to hear what Athertonians wanted to do with the environmental planning committee. That was the one, like my one takeaway we never really did. And I kind of wish we could do like a little survey, what people might want us to be working on.
Mhm.
Because we're off, I mean, we all have great ideas, but it would be also nice to hear if the community, it has to be beyond recycling, because that's just not going to be enough, but what they might be interested in, we might be surprised.
Well, that may lead into one of the items I'll be mentioning during staff comments.
Excellent.
I'll have everybody wait on the edge of their seat until that. Before we get there, Jake had a few introductions to make. You can see there's a few new faces on the screen.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. First off, Holly, thanks for all your efforts. We appreciate you and all the time that you committed to. I didn't get to work with you the full 6 years, but the first, or my first two and your last two have been great. So thank you.
Thank you, Jake. I
And then
appreciate
I will
it.
go ahead and introduce a couple of those faces. So we have, of course. We have a new assistant planner that's joining the town of Hutchinson. That's Robin. You'll see him here on the call. He is a graduate of Kansas State University's Master's Urban Planning program, and he has just started this week. So Rob, if you'd like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, no, this is my fourth day in, and so it's been great getting to know a little more about Atherton, of course. I live nearby in North Fair Oaks, so I have a fair amount of familiarity already. But yeah, great to see some more friendly faces, and excited to get to work with all of you.
Great.
And one thing I'd like to highlight is Ralph has a lot of work done in community outreach. And I've actually had the pleasure of working with him prior in some community outreach. So I think that just having him on staff and available, I know we'll be getting a sustainability coordinator in the future, but it's just great to have people who are qualified in that. The next person I'd like to introduce is our new EPC committee member, Patty Spezrow. She has, this is our first meeting, and we've had some brief conversations and introductions here with, and I think another great addition. Patty, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Patty. I'm a 15-year resident of Atherton, originally from Canada. I am a master gardener and president of the Peninsula Rose Society, consulting rosarian, and also horticulture chair for the Atherton Garden Guild. Atherton Garden Guild actually takes care of some roses in the Holbrook Palmer Park. And I'm an avid gardener, passionate about it, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome, Patty. I'm
Thank
sure you're
you.
going to be an amazing addition to the team.
Thank you, Holly.
Okay. I'm guessing you have more, Jake.
That's it for introductions. I don't know. I think that there's maybe Kelly has some good news or exciting news that she might be moving on to opportunity. I'm not sure, Kelly, if you plan to participate moving forward virtually, or if that would this would be your last meeting as well. So perhaps you can enlighten us on that as well.
Yeah, for sure. So it is a little bit weird because basically what I was accepted into a master's in higher education at the University of Oslo in Norway. It aligns very much with my the kind of what I want to do in the world and my career trajectory. So I'm extremely excited about it. But since we are in a pandemic still at the moment, Norway, their travel restrictions are such that even on a student visa, I can't get into the country. So there's a lot of hope that that's going to change in time for the semester start in August. And since we normally cancel our July meeting because everybody's off enjoying their summers, this could be my final meeting, but I'm also not sure if I would still technically, I'd still be voting in Atherton. Like I obviously maintain my citizenship, obviously, and so I'm not sure exactly how that works with being on the committee. Don't know if that qualifies as being a resident or not, but this could very well be my last meeting. It's just kind of up in the air. But there are exciting things ahead. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
That's really exciting. I'm hoping you'll be able to stay because you've actually contributed a lot. So
Thank you, Holly. It would be great to be able to continue to participate in some way, for sure. But I don't know what the rules are, and maybe Stephanie, you might have some further information on that. But yeah, I mean, even if it were possible, the time difference might be difficult.
Yeah, I think in the interim, if you are willing and able, while you're here in the United States under current Pacific Standard Time, I don't see any problems with you being able to continue to participate as an APC member with these remote meetings. Clearly that would become difficult if you're not living here. Once, hopefully sometime this year, we go back to meeting the old-fashioned way in person at Holbrook Palmer Park. But with that said, we do have the next regularly scheduled EPC meeting in July. So we can just keep in touch and touch base on kind of where you are in your process and life. And, certainly if you are able and willing, I don't see any problems with that.
That sounds like a great plan. Thank you.
Sure.
So if Kelly
Great.
leaves, does that mean we have 2 openings? Not that we want you to leave, Kelly.
Oh, you got to plan.
Yeah,
So.
just
Yes.
wondering.
That's correct.
Okay.
I did. I've chatted with Rick DeGolia, and we have a person who's interested, and I have them sent over like the electronic packet to sign up. So we'll see what happens.
Great.
Thank you. And yeah, if you all would like to spread the word to your local communities, we do have openings, and and we're looking to fill. That's all the comments that I have at the moment. Thank you.
If I may add one thing, Jake, and through the chair, before we conclude with item 3, staff member comments, just a quick update. The Sustainability Coordinator Consultant position RFP has been publicly released. The deadline for application submittals as it currently stands is next Friday, May 28th. Last I checked in with the city clerk's office, I think we've had a few people poke around with questions, but I have not heard that any formal applications have actually been submitted to date. That may have changed. It was about two days ago or so since I last spoke with him, him being the city clerk. So I know we had shared it with the EPC previously, but just a friendly reminder or request, I should say, if anybody knows anybody in the field that may be interested in a position, do feel free to share that. And I see Council Member Hawkins Manuelian has raised her hand. Hi, Diana.
I have a quick question. Was that shared with any publications or is it just off our website? So how are we promoting that?
Yeah, so let me pull it up. We both Jake and I, I'm sure everyone's aware that we work for a private consulting firm, Good City Company. So we have shared that and distributed that through all of our social and public media. The city clerk has posted it online. We have sent it to about half a dozen private companies and organizations that we had discussed at the EPC a couple meetings back. Actera, DNV, GL, that was a company that helped us prepare the climate action plan. Stanford's Department of Environmental Engineering. We also shared it with Menlo College. I'm trying to think, I have to pull up the email from the clerks on what other mediums, but it was beyond just posting on the town's website. And the last I talked to Anthony was also, we were going to try to put it on the Cal Ops website, which is a website for more government positions, but we'd have the ability to do that as well.
Are we able to share with people?
Yes, absolutely.
Just forward it to whoever.
Yeah, why don't I do this? I'll send the link to where it is on the website. I'll put it in the chat so everybody can just grab it and copy and paste it if they'd like. And please, yes, feel free to share it with anyone and everyone.
I'd like to see like, what is it, 360 or whatever that one is, and then Thrive. A lot of the local organizations that have newsletters, I'd like to send it to all of those. So that'd be great. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I'll send that now. And that was it from me in terms of staff comments. Thank you.
So I did share it with Actera. And so I don't know, they said they will post it inside their building as well as try their best to post it externally. So promote it a little bit. That was my 2 cents. And I can try also with one of our speakers who came for our speaker series who, I don't know how helpful he could be, but he was like the energy. Oh my God, I'm thinking the wrong word. I'm thinking like because of Oslo. Thanks, Kelly. Think of energy minister. He was like the energy czar sort of with Obama. He spoke at one of our Earth Days. I can ask him to see if he would also have maybe know of grad students or whatever who would be interested.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Are those all of our items?
I believe that allows us to move on to item 4.
Can I ask a question? Did you guys report back on, at one of our city council meetings, we had the Peninsula Clean Energy and they gave us a presentation on green building awards. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded to me like we voted in favor of pursuing the $10,000 to help us look at green building. Is someone going to report on that or?
We certainly can. I don't have that information available to me right now to be able to report back to you. So if it was green buildings, I'd like to confer with our chief building official, Mike Greenlee, as well as city manager, so I can get myself up to speed and we can report back at the regularly scheduled meeting in July.
Yeah, from my experience of being there is they gave us a whole presentation about reach and all the different communities are doing to get reach codes. And at the end, I believe, and again, this is faulty memory, we voted on whether or not, because they give a $10,000 amount to encourage you to explore it. And I believe it passed. I think we got enough people that's actually said yes, but then it kind of went on to the next thing. And what wasn't clear is, well, then how do we follow up on that? And, will we get that money? Will that money be applied toward this RFP position, or will it be, and what role will this organization have in it? All of that was, needed to be determined.
Sure. We'll look into that.
Thanks.
Okay, shall we move on to approving the minutes? Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes from our last meeting? Do I have anyone volunteering to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Any seconds?
Seconded.
Anyone disagree? Okay, it looks like the meeting minutes are approved. So we move into our big main event. I'm not really sure how to structure this. So, Stephanie, how would you structure the next part for people being able to say like how they, I would like to run for blah, 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 so second, or approvals, etc.
Sure. So how I've seen it done typically in the past, which you can choose to do it or not, is just a little bit of informal discussion by the committee. Either both the positions up, the chair and or vice chair can be self-nominated, or somebody can nominate another individual. Usually they try to get a little bit of a buy-in from that individual, like, yes, I'm willing to consider it, or no, thank you. That's not on the table for me. So can just sort of begin with some, again, informal conversation amongst the committee, and ultimately either again, an individual can volunteer themselves, and or another committee member could volunteer to request appointment of somebody.
Can you just go over what is involved in each of those roles? High level. I mean, most of us are relatively new to the committee.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we haven't had a vice chair. It's just been me for the last 3 years, so it's been a little unusual because our vice chair moved away. So I will let Stephanie go over that, but it's generally running the meeting, just sort of that is the function, making sure things go kind of according to plan, discussing things with staff, like the city staff. Occasionally there'll be things that'll come up before we want to discuss it when it comes on the agenda. So it's not a giant time sink. It's really more of a like executive or administrative function. And it just helps to know Robert's rules of order. That would be my big, but definitely not a deal breaker. You can learn it in 30 minutes. That's what YouTube's for.
Thank you, Holly. I think you captured it pretty well. And the only thing, a couple points I would add, as it relates to the vice chair, it would effectively be everything that Holly just described. Should the chair not be able to attend a meeting, the vice chair would assume that role. And again, it's really just the leadership and management of going through the publicly distributed agenda, calling the meeting to order, casting vote, kind of keeping everything, making sure that, again, the agenda is being properly followed. And there will be some occasional offline, I'll say, conversations between staff and the chair in setting agenda meeting items, if there was any kind of like open-ended discussion left at a prior EPC meeting. But I think Holly captured the main gist of it quite accurately.
I will tell you from my own experience, I thought, oh my gosh, but then I've seen other people do it. I've had enough, unfortunately for all of you, you haven't had enough changeover. And even amongst ourselves, we had in the old committee, we had sort of a gentleman's agreement that we would all try to take a turn, but one person. So he just didn't want to have that additional responsibility. So it's not overwhelming. It's generally a nice experience. Jake?
You say
Okay.
Jake. Oh.
Yeah. You, for some reason, you're lit up like you're going to say something. I was making sure.
Oh, I must have froze up or had some connection issues. I have nothing further to add to that. And
so, I mean, Kelly, if you were, I felt like you were be physically in the country, I would hope that you would run because you've been doing this for some time. And then of course, Emily and Jennifer, I would hope that you'd really consider it because you have the most time on the clock, just kind of understanding the flow of how things go. And I would be either of you would make excellent chairs and vice chairs, and you can take turns. You could be your turn. You could swap it. There's no need to fight in the hallway. You guys get along beautifully. So that would be my suggestion.
I feel a little odd about doing, my hope was to kind of get a little time on the committee for before knowing. So I need to think about it a little bit.
Well, I'm happy to do it as long as you're okay with me completely messing up the first couple of meetings. I mean, I've never done it before, so I'll watch the YouTube. I mean, and you know, if people want me to do it, I'm happy to try it. And then maybe Jennifer could be the vice if she wants to, and that way, you know, if I'm not here or something, she could run the meeting. As long as it doesn't sound like it's a huge time commitment. I don't have a ton of time to throw into it, but if I'm at the meeting anyway, I'm happy to help.
You just need to prep before, read minutes, really think about if we're missing something, like just keep like a little, you know, I think you're good about taking notes. It's just like sort of looking at your notes before the meeting, making sure we're on task for certain things, making sure, you know, like the subcommittees are moving around a little. It's just not always one person's thing to resolve.
Okay.
I'm saying it's not generally that hard, and we all have different time commitments. I totally understand, because I can think of a year that was really challenging for me to do it and a year that was much easier. So it sort of depends on the year. Right now, it's not too bad because we're still in pandemic. So there's not a lot of giant deliverables.
Yeah, so what you're saying is we need to also be keeping track of things that are happening beyond what's.
No, I'm just saying like that, like you're like from the last meeting minute, and if you have like any to follow up with any subcommittee questions with staff, because you can, obviously Brown would get in the way. We can't directly ask anyone anything. So.
Okay, that's the kind of thing I don't know. So, yeah.
If I may, through the chair, you know, and us as staff are here to help, you know, support and or provide any guidance in those first initial meetings. If you have any questions on kind of what you can or shouldn't be doing, or what you should or shouldn't be doing. But again, it is a relatively, you're doing what you're doing right now, except you are more of the lead voice in making sure that we're following through the agenda as it currently reads for each meeting. Any ancillary work outside of the actual meeting is going to be very limited to either email and or phone call conversations with staff. If you know we have to finalize the agenda topics, for example, and we want to vet with the chair, you know, is this what you heard at the last meeting? Are we capturing the language correctly, et cetera? So as Holly mentioned, that time is indeed pretty sparse.
It's not a giant commitment, because I have thought of that many times with a job and a child and all that kind of thing. You think, oh my gosh, this is going to be much bigger than it really is. Pinky swear, if I can pinky swear with you.
I'm happy to help, Emily.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll just give it a try. I mean, people, I guess if you have to vote, that's fine too.
We do have to vote on it, so.
Okay, and I'm happy to, do that role if no one wants to do it or not do it. I'm flexible, so. I guess I should
Okay.
advocate for myself more, but it's really just, I'm happy to help if I'm, if that's what makes sense for the group.
It does
think-
make sense.
Yeah, I think you'd be great, Emily. I'm happy to be like an interim. At some point I will be out of the country, but if it would help at all, I'm happy to do it for like the next meeting or two, whatever makes sense.
Okay, well, what was the YouTube I need to watch?
I will find it and send it to you, Emily.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Kelly. We'll see how the election turns out.
Well, I know who I'm voting for, so.
Oh, man.
So
All
do
right.
we have a chair and a vice chair then? Would that be?
If I may, through the chair, if just for a formality, if there could be a motion made for the appointment of a chair, a vote then taken, and then a second motion made for the appointment of a vice chair, and then a vote subsequently
Yes.
taken, that would be appreciated.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Do I need to excuse myself? How does that work?
No, you can certainly vote for yourself if you'd like.
Are we doing a little show of hands or?
Yeah.
We'll do it by roll call. We've been doing roll call votes over Zoom just in case the audio gets lost or distorted. So Jake will take roll call after a motion is made.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can't currently make the motion since I am the chair.
Move to appoint Emily as chair of the EPC.
Need a second?
I second.
Thank you. All
Okay,
right.
and roll.
Yeah.
Chair.
Aye.
Thank you. I have committee member Davis,
Aye.
committee member Khan,
Aye.
committee member Kariko,
Aye.
and committee member Spezrow.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I am doing a roll call for vote on the appointment of the chair for the EPC, and so I just need an aye or a no from you for the roll call.
Aye.
An aye for approval of the appointment and a no for against. Okay, I have an aye. Thank you. Great.
Okay, now we need to do the same thing one more time for the vice chair. I need someone to, well, actually, I can do it since I am no longer chair. I move to, for the motion for Jennifer to become vice chair, to be nominated to become vice chair.
I second.
Great, thank you. And then committee member Joseph,
Aye.
committee member Kariko,
Yes.
committee member Davis,
Aye.
and it would Chair Khan.
Aye.
And committee member Spezrow.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll do my best. I know Jennifer will too.
You are gonna do great.
We'll see how it goes.
I have faith. Okay, so now that we have done that, do you want to take the reins, or do you want me to keep going?
I prefer to just watch you for the rest of the meeting if that's okay, now that I know I'm going to be in this role.
Okay, all right.
Okay, all right.
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so the next action item is our work plan. So I'm dying to hear from the staff.
Thank you. So item 5B is a discussion of 2020 sustainability work plan. At the last EPC meeting, the EPC recommended a draft work plan to the City Council for consideration of the 2021 sustainability work plan. The Sustainability Work Plan functions as the EPC sponsored event that it typically takes part in each year. Typically, it's the Earth Day event that the EPC plans and implements. And this year, it'll be a work plan that consists of two major components. One of those components being the EPC plans to commemorate a plaque to a tree at the Civic Center. Such plaque would be purchased in the 2020 to 2021 fiscal year, as approved by the planning or by the City Council at its April meeting. So your staff report or your memo provided for this item is include the attached and approved work plan, sustainability work plan. And the EPC may wish to appoint a ad hoc subcommittee in order to finalize any plans for the commemorative plaque for a tree at the Civic Center. And the second item was the seed paper bookmark mailing. So at the last EPC meeting, the EPC appointed an ad hoc subcommittee of committee member Khan and EPC intern Nasiri. And they prepared some draft language to put onto a bookmark that also includes a seed, I guess, seeded paper that can be planted into the residents' garden or in their yard or wherever they desire. The EPC to mail this bookmark out the entire town. And so the ad hoc subcommittee has prepared that language. It's been attached to as well. And they would appreciate your feedback. And I'm sure they would have some more to say about the thought process that they've come up with in drafting this language. After the meeting, they'll continue with finalizing any of that language to be printed onto the bookmark. With that, would just like to say that we recommend that you discuss the information here and provide this on any ad hoc subcommittee appointments for the commemorative plaque component and provide any additional direction to ad hoc subcommittee and staff. Thank you.
So I believe it was Jennifer and Jackie that were working on that, or do I have the wrong, that the ad hoc subcommittee was comprised of?
For the bookmark, it was Jackie and me.
Jackie and Kelly?
No, Emily.
Oh, Emily, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
You're a very small screen for me. I should put my glasses on. So do you want to go over it, Emily? A little bit of what you...
Yeah, Jackie and I met right after our last EPC meeting to discuss this project. And we found two bookmarks that we really liked, and I sent those to Jake. I don't know if he can share his screen and show anybody. Sorry, my phone's going off. We came up with some ideas that would be great to include on the bookmark. I don't think we can use all this text, but one thing we wanted to do was sort of throw it out to the group to see what we should focus on. If you look at the agenda, you'll see key ideas that we thought we could, were starting points to sort of topics of discussion. But we really, as a group, just need to decide what we want to communicate to the town. So if you look on the agenda, you'll see we came up with 8 sort of messaging points.
I have 7.
Oh, sorry. One of the things the document I was looking at was 8, but maybe I condensed it to 7. But so these are all things that were easy, we thought, to communicate to people, but these don't have to be the items that we communicate to people. It's just sort of a starting off point for discussion. And I don't think we can include all these on a bookmark anyway, because they're skinny and small. But, we could either do something like this, or we could make the bookmark more about gardening since they're planting it. It's really up to the group.
Well, I like your 7 items. Obviously, yeah, they won't all fit onto the bookmark. The only one I would just put as a question mark would be sign up for Peninsula Clean Energy. You were automatically signed up unless
are
you
we?
decided to opt into PG&E.
Got it. Okay, so that one can go.
And 3, we've been sort of the use the transit is a good one. But since it's floral, maybe we should do some sort of, as you're like, maybe the
leaf blower.
Leaf blower. We Jennifer and I on a different subcommittee wrote another Athertonian drip to get, to work on this electric leaf blower idea of not disturbing the topsoil and how to mulch things and blah blah. So
Well,
we had put that in. I'm very excited to have a master gardener on this group.
I know, this is very timely. We could do something like plant natives and try to irrigate with a drip system. I mean, we could sort of make it more gardening focused. Or, we have 2 bookmarks, so we could actually do different things on each one if we want to.
That is an idea. So you could have entirely 2 different ideas. The other, for energy where we live, I know when we did our study in the past, the energy audit will discover all the weird things that suck your energy out of your home. And for a lot of people, since we have things like wine fridges and secondary fridges, sometimes old pool equipment, they tend to be the big energy hogs in people's house. It'll be things that are really surprising to you that are really taking your energy out of your house, like the standard, turn off this, double insulate. Most people have done that. It's just additional strange. It could even be like a cigar. I can't think of it. Humidifier. It's not the right word. A humidor. It could be something like that that's taking all your energy in your house, like more than other things. So that the audit is a good idea. I think the buy and use electric blowers would be nice, like on the green thing, but that's just me personally. And the reduce plastic and recycling, I think it's probably like the thing they've seen already the most. And purchase an electric car might be a really, probably out of all the things, like a new old idea, or if you're kind of in the market to change things up, this would be one of the ideas.
I think that when we were talking about this, we were really trying to think also like, how can we get out information or like plant the sorry, pun
Plant the
intended,
seed.
plant the seed, yeah, about the electric leaf blowers. So I think that's definitely important to be on there. I think walk, bike, and use transit, that's great. My one thing about that is I feel like what could be really cool, which you can't do on a bookmark, is if you actually kind of mapped out, where that's possible somehow.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of streets in Atherton, at least, where I'm at, that aren't as walkable. That in like the transit is kind of limited. But anyway, so in my mind, that's a little bit of that could be a bit of a bigger project, but I like that it is on there. And also I agree with Holly on the purchasing an electric car. I think if it's going to be on there, I wouldn't put it first, because that to me is not easy. That requires, a substantial amount of money, and that's feasible for a lot of people in Atherton, but I think there are still some people who would be kind of like, that's easy, like what comes next? So I think that's fine to have on there, but like and a lot of people might find really useful to like there might already be thinking about it, might push them to do that. But maybe if we start with kind of like what's the easiest and then lead into what's still easy but more difficult. So those are my thoughts and points on that. But excellent.
Yeah. So if we do one that's gardening thing, we could have buy and use electric blowers, plant native, use drip irrigation, and compost. I mean, that's sort of all gardening themed.
Mm-hmm.
Any others, Patty, that I'm missing?
Yeah, Emily, I really love your idea of the blowers and the drip, because drip actually you're conserving water, you're not and that's a sustainability issue. The native, once natives are established, they don't need any watering. And like we all know, blowers, not only is it a noise issue, but it does blow your topsoil and it's just not good for plant health and soil health. So I think if we keep it at just three messages with the title of Plant the Seed, I think that would be really good.
Cute. Okay, well, we could just, Jake, is it possible for you to link to and show everybody the 2 bookmarks that I emailed you, or? Jackie did all the research finding these bookmarks, so she did a great job.
I put them in the chat, the
Oh,
2
great.
that we decided were the.
Yeah, there's
Here it is.
one. So you can see that the seed is, I guess it's in the sun.
Mhm.
Plant that sun. And we could do the town of Atherton logo at the bottom.
Can I ask you a couple quick questions? I'm sorry, I had my hand up for a while. What are the seeds that we're putting out? Because if we're going to send out this many seeds, it should be indigenous. So that's one thing. And I was thinking help the pollinators, help bees. So what the seeds are seems to be relevant that we're sending, especially because we're doing so many. And the second question I wanted to bring to the group is the governor's already announced drought and requesting drought cutbacks in certain areas. Ours is next. In the New York Times today was a list of things we can do to share our water, some which were relatively new ideas. I sent that to Jake to send out to everybody, but given the timeliness of us about to be getting drought requests from the state, maybe that should be one of the things we address and things that people can do. So those are my 2 questions, both the sustainability and what is it we're putting, and then should we address drought issues as well with this?
That's an excellent question regarding what seed is going to be part of the seed paper. I'm not 100% sure. I should have done more research about that, but it's probably a non-invasive plant or just a regular herb.
Yeah, there's things that like things that attract butterflies, but then there's some that they recommend. And then there's pollinator seeds, flowers that, are going to help the bees, because the bees are having a hard time right now with all the insecticides. But the problem is whatever we send has to be indigenous, because it would be not environmentally good for us to send a huge lot of seeds to every single house that is not indigenous to this environment. It would, I don't know.
They do them that are cow wildflowers, so those would be indigenous.
And do those work for pollinators too? That would be.
Yeah, they're perfect because they're meant to be here, right?
Awesome. Yeah. So I just wanted to flag that as an issue, because I once did this thing with butterflies and they ended up not being indigenous butterflies, and I got very much scolded for having non-indigenous butterflies. So if we're giving out seeds, the one other thing that we might get pushback from people, I don't know if any of you guys remember this, but just a little while ago, maybe about a year ago, there was a Chinese hack where they were sending out seed packets, and it was in the national news telling us not to plant seeds that come in the mail. Just so you know, like, I don't think that people are going to remember that, but that was about a year ago, because they were sending off invasive species in seed form to people randomly across the United States. Does anybody remember that? You know what I'm
I
talking about?
do.
No, that's crazy. That's good to know.
Crazy, but just good to know in case we get some pushback. But if we stick with it being things that are indigenous and things that are going to help the environment, like pollinators or butterflies, I think we're golden.
Okay, great points. You're absolutely right. We have to just confirm. It does say wildflower mix, so we'll make sure that it's California wildflowers, preferably for pollinators. We'll have to confirm that.
And Jake, can you share that article that was in the New York Times today, if you guys didn't see it? But it's really good, and it's all about, droughts coming to California. There's going to be a lot of messaging going out about how to cut back on our water, and Atherton is we use a lot of water, so that's whether that's something we want to add to this or not. And are you guys going to put URLs? Is there room?
Well, it depends on what we're communicating. I think if we do one, obviously with the energy audit information, then yes. But not if we're doing, like on the gardening one, that's gardening specific, I don't think we need to. unless we're linking to additional information about drought rules.
What if we link to our own environmental website and as opposed to and just get people there, and then we're not worried about making it 2 words, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we could do that. There were a couple different places when I think I emailed earlier to try to see if there was an easy way to link to like Peninsula Clean Energy and the audit. Jake, can you link to our town environmental website really quickly so we can see what that says?
So in other
Yes.
words, if we link to our own website, then we can put a more in-depth message we want people to get on that.
Okay, to change the website. Are we allowed to do that?
Yes, we can completely make edits to the sustainability website to include all the links that we're looking for that you want to have residents to have access to. And through that website here, we could include the top that would connect them to those resources.
Okay, well, I think we could focus on getting one of these out in the near term. Is there a time frame, Jake, for when these are supposed to be mailed?
The time frame that we are concerned with would be for the spending of the budget. So spend the budget by the end of the fiscal year, which would be June 30th. So ideally, we would like a full bookmark and mailing purchase by then.
Yeah, it will come really quickly. I'm just warning you from past experience. So,
right. I'm just curious, is it going in with another mailing? Like, are you mailing more than one thing together, or is this a standalone bookmark mailing?
This, as of now, plan is to mail the bookmark in an envelope as one mailing.
Okay, but perhaps if there's drought information, there might be a insert with, piece of paper about that or something. I don't know. Okay, well, we need to look at that. And how many are we ordering? That's my next question.
So for the mailer, there's approximately 2,550 residents that live in the town of Atherton in that mail. So that's the number that we project for townwide mailers.
Okay.
isn't it around $700 to mail something out?
So for the seed bookmark, we projected and were approved a budget of, of $3,000 for the mailing. So this includes the printed seed paper bookmark, which will be a majority of that budget, and then the mailing, which comes out to about $1,500 for the printing of the envelopes and the stuffing as well. So the breakdown is included in the.
Oh, sorry, I missed the line.
Okay. Well, it sounds like the next order of business is to just confirm the seed issue and then get a sort of a draft of the text that'll be on the bookmark. So Jackie and I can work on that and confirm the timetable with the bookmark producer. You showed both of them, right? There were two. There was one that was the sun and then one that was a flower pot, which was also really cute.
Yeah.
Oh, that one, right. Plant me. Cute.
Do they have any information about how quickly you have to plant it? So if we send out a bunch of things and it's not in season, so like we're sending seeds that may go out in summer and maybe they have to be planted in spring. Are they allowed to be stored until next spring? I mean, we have to be sustainable, and we have our gardening lady here, maybe can tell us. I mean, can they hold them until next spring? Because and does it say on it, plant in this? So it's got to be for our zone and for a relative, either be able to store them till we can plant them appropriately or send something that's planted around the time they're going to get it.
Okay, I agree with Diana. Typically, when you buy seeds, there's an expiration date on the seeds. Seeds have to be stored in a dry, cool place usually. And most people put their seeds out in the spring.
Now, I could be wrong about this, but I know in Tahoe, we planted our wildflower seeds in the fall.
Okay.
So we'll just have to check, but that's an excellent point.
Does it say on it for the non-gardeners what to do with them? I can't read, it's very small.
I think we can put whatever we want in those.
But it'd be nice to tell the story. It's for pollinators. Or
Yeah, it does say at the bottom. It doesn't say when, but it says how to plant them. So I need to call her.
From my experience of using seed paper, I feel like you can plant them even 2 months after, or like, not super large time span away from when you initially got it, but a good amount where like it will still grow.
Is there any question about sending out 2,000 seeds of a specific species in one little area? Does that affect our climate, or is there anything we need to think about when we do that, since we're the environmental protection group?
I think it's more positive than negative. I think in this case, it's like we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Oh, totally agree. I'm not putting a barrier. I'm just making sure we ask the questions before we send them out.
I mean, for myself, I know if I'm sort of iffy on my seeds, I put them in the fridge, which I don't know how. I mean, it's worked for me, and they come back and they're fine. I haven't had any issues. So, but your point of like having these everywhere, we would have to assume that everyone would plant them. I have a feeling that some people will give them to their grandkids who will not be as local.
Mm-hmm.
So they could be a lot of different places, honestly. And it's a very small amount of flowers. You're not planting a giant amount. I don't know if you've ever done this in the past. It's just a little patch. It's very small.
Oh, okay.
So
it's a packet of seeds.
Ish. I give it a packet of seeds ish.
Okay.
I would say like it would be like a quarter packet to like a half packet. They're not all going to germinate, for example.
I mean, it could be something edible too. I mean, it could be encouraging people to make an herb garden. I don't know. I just want you guys to think about what it is we actually give, because it's symbolic, and it's, I don't know, it could be symbolic.
I looked at the seed packets for this one, and it did look like there were things like herbs, and so those are options.
Yeah, I think herbs would be more appealing to people. And herbs are the easiest thing to grow of all the plants.
Well, herbs are always good. The one thing about the wildflowers is you can go on a hike and just distribute them as you're walking on a hike, assuming they're indigenous, for people who aren't gardeners. And helping the pollinators is always great, and helping the butterflies is always great. So all of those are awesome ideas.
Well, I'm going to I'll call the bookmark producers and talk to them more about the seed mixes, because it's obviously very important. So I don't know if we should decide 2 scenarios now, just so the group agrees, assuming that it makes sense logistically that the seeds can be planted in the summer or fall, and that they're either natives or herbs, which I guess don't have to be natives. We need to decide whether or not we'd rather have native wildflowers or herbs.
Well, we should call this I guess we should figure out like via a vote. Like maybe like we can see the ayes and the nays, like who would be in favor of having the seeds be native flowers? Say aye. And who would be in favor of having having the seeds be herbs? Say aye. How about that?
Yeah, and they're going to be herbs as a default if the wildflowers aren't native, obviously.
Okay. Well, I think that sort of sorts it out right there.
Yeah.
If they're non-native, then we could just default to an herb garden.
Okay, but a native wildflower is preferable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I understand Diana's point, but Diana, from my own experience with these bookmarks, they do not all germinate. I've gotten them from a variety of weddings, like for save the date, and then you get to bury them in your yard. They're kind of fun.
So presumably we'll have to order these before the next meeting,
Correct.
which means I would be happy to send a draft of what we're saying to the group, on the bookmark to the group prior, if that is what people would like. I'm not sure how we normally handle actually executing this when we don't have time for another round of discussions about it.
Through the chair, on that note, we could not unfortunately send out any distribution to the committee as a whole without putting it on a regularly scheduled agenda, because then we would run into some concerns with the Brown Act by having conversations outside of a public forum. A few suggestions on how you could proceed would be direction to your subcommittee with a prioritized sort of list, so to speak. What's your preferred option A for the subcommittee to try and implement in terms of species and or content on the bookmark? And if that option proves to not be feasible, based on conversations with the bookmark producers, et cetera, then there's a fallback, so to speak, of an option B. See however many options you want to get, but maybe prioritize those. And then allow the ad hoc subcommittee to continue to work with staff in finalizing the bookmarks and having them both purchased, stuffed, and mailed, all done prior to June 31st of this year, so that we can utilize the funds that are allocated in this fiscal year's budget.
They can definitely be purchased prior. Can postage be bought prior, even if it's actually stuffed and mailed later?
I think, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, that the whole package, so to speak, was going to be completed by one outside vendor. So that vendor would stuff, label, seal, and affix postage. That was part of the estimated cost. Is that correct, Jake?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
To answer your question.
Have it in hand by June 30th.
Yeah, to answer your question, I mean, we could talk to the manufacturer, but the company that was going to be providing that service, and see kind of what we could do. Maybe we could like pay it in full, and I don't know. We'd have to talk to them directly. But the quote that we received in the budget that we were authorized was in that type of approach that I just described.
Okay. Well, the ad hoc subcommittee is just Jackie and me. So if anybody else wants to join, I guess they can. Otherwise, we'll have to sort of, do these final approvals ourselves and send them out. But as it stands, we're going to do one gardening themed bookmark with the following messages: buy and use electric blowers, plant native, use drip irrigation, help the pollinators, and add drought information.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think that sounds fantastic.
Okay, good. All right. Well, we'll make sure all of the other points are taken into consideration, and that we don't commit a environmental and gardening faux pas with this.
Jake, should I add on what Jennifer and I did for the Athertonian at this point, or should I wait for the next item?
As it relates to what you've published or what you have going towards for the Athertonian, I don't think related to this item any longer.
Okay.
So add it in at the end for some kind of like reopening of the public comments
Okay.
or this committee comments, excuse me. But as it relates to this item, it's more geared towards the approved facility and the seated bookmark and the commemorative plaque.
Okay, perfect. So it looks like we've sort of wrapped up this and we should move on to the next action item. I wish I were sometimes better with Zoom on not making it full screen. I'm always losing the notes. Hold on. Okay, so then should we move on to our next item, which is regular business? I'm sorry, not regular business. Regular business C, the EPC Ad Hoc Subcommittee committees update. Correct?
Chair, there's one portion of the item 5B related to the commemorative plaque for the sustainability plan that was approved. You may wish to discuss that further and possibly appoint a ad hoc subcommittee to move forward with the purchasing and design of the commemorative plaque for a tree at the Civic Center.
So I guess we've only discussed the seed paper, but not the plaque. That's correct. Okay, so what is, I didn't see the item about it says commemorative plaque was $200, but I don't know anything about it.
So what staff's looking for with this item, so the EPC did finalize that as a piece within their overall work plan. But when we went back to the prior meeting, there was no committee or individuals appointed should the council have approved it, which they now have, to actually work with staff in ordering the plaque, determining what we'd like the plaque to say, any images on the plaque, etc. So that step needs to also occur prior to the end of this fiscal year at the end of June in order for us to utilize those available funds. So what we as staff are looking for, if there is an appointment of an ad hoc subcommittee, which can always, of course, be one individual to work with us in finalizing and implementing that.
There was someone who had recently done plaques in our group, and I can't recall who it was. It was, I think, 2 meetings ago. They were talking about doing. Would you be willing to be a subcommittee?
I don't think I did some plaque research for all the millions of plaques that are going on for the donor wall and all that stuff. So I did find some vendors, and right now we have some RFP out for vendors, but these are, this is going to be just one little plaque, right? So I don't think you need a big, huge vendor, and it probably can be just made locally. And I don't think I'm allowed to vote or do anything, speaking of the Roberts rule. So
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know how all this works, so.
Maybe, well, since this is technically my last meeting, it's a little challenging for me to like say, oh, I'll finish up your plaque thing. So is there anyone who'd be willing to be even a committee of one? And perhaps you could help them. Yay.
Yeah, put me down.
Thanks, Patty. I appreciate it. And maybe you and Diana could provide you a list of people who she's already contacted. It would just make it that much easier.
I'm glad to share any of that information, but can I ask a question on this plaque thing? When we originally went down this path, weren't we talking about the idea of it being a ceremony where you kind of, talk about the environment and then you dedicate the thing? Because if it's just a little plaque on a tree, then I have to ask what our goal is and how.
No, it would be, I think the idea was to buy the plaque and defer the ceremony.
So we would do it next Earth Day or something like that?
Whenever, maybe when the next, like when we convene again or something, when in human contact reconvenes, then maybe that would be like an appropriate time and have like a little thing and get a photo and stick it online. It's generally, these things are not like super hugely attended anyway. It's just the idea of like putting it out there, letting people know, have the mayor come. You could cut like some, I don't know, raffia ribbon or something.
If I may, through the chair, there will be some type of, well, I will not say there will be, there should be some type of ceremony, for lack of a better word, once the town civic center offices open up. presuming that those open during a period of time in which any COVID-19 regulations allow gatherings of some capacity. So I don't know, just an idea to throw out there for contemplation would be to piggyback the plaque installation from the APC during that event, assuming there is some type of event that is able to occur. If you wanted to have it done, sometime this calendar year, or with and piggyback on, an event that there may be, a fair amount of attendees possibly.
Yeah, those I think are targeted for October, if I'm right, that we don't have dates yet. The other thing that's coming up is there's a big birthday for Atherton, and our symbol is the tree. So that it would be another opportunity for which we're going to put a budget to and do some things around the birthday of Atherton. So if we buy the plaque now, does the money have to literally be spent in this year, I guess is what
It does.
Yes.
So we have to already know what we wanted to say and everything before and make it now, and then we just dedicate it later.
Yeah, and
Correct.
Patty, to catch you up, we had to cancel Earth Day last year, which Diana put so much work into, and it went virtual last year, obviously because of the coronavirus pandemic, and we were deciding whether or not we'd be able to do something this year, and what we settled on was, since things were still really up in the air with the pandemic, having this commemorative plaque to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, as well as the coronavirus pandemic, just because it is this really tragic and notable moment in history. And we thought it'd be interesting to have a plaque commemorating it by the tree at the new town civic center. So that was sort of the background of how we came up with this.
Wasn't there a tree planting as part of it too? Because I remember the whole
Yes.
discussion of which tree is it, and is it one
Right.
that's already in the, and
And
there
it-
were charges if it wasn't one that was already in the plan. So we said, all right, we'll do one in the plan. And
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So I think we're using a tree that's
Already
already being paid for by the town.
Correct. The change order issue was just too laborious, and we'd run out of all of our money.
But the idea was to maybe pick one by the library or something that we're kids
Correct.
see, because it really is a history lesson too. as
Yeah.
much as anything else, yeah.
Exactly. Site selection wasn't the issue. It was just actually us planting the tree that was the problem.
what is our city tree? What is that tree?
It is an
behind?
oak.
A California oak or?
I'll leave it to your imagination. It's an oak. You could say it's a live oak. I'm not sure. We know it's an oak. A coastal oak, I'm not sure. It's just like very oaky.
You know, Patty, we're gonna be asking you all questions
I
about.
hear that. They're coming.
But it's the tree behind Stephanie's head. I don't know what kind of oak that is, but
Okay. So just to be clear, so the plaque has to be purchased by the end of June in order for it to be in the budget. So that means that the script has to be decided and where to buy it and so on. But the next meeting is not until July. So would I have to have it approved, the script and the plaque purchased before that? I would think so.
Yes, so as the appointed ad hoc subcommittee member, you are able to work with staff starting, once this meeting ends until the next regularly scheduled meeting. If the committee has some direction that they'd like to share or offer to you before this regularly scheduled meeting concludes, with some ideas on content of words, images, etc., that could be helpful for your efforts as you work with us, again, as the appointed ad hoc subcommittee member, so that we can work offline, so to speak, outside the regularly scheduled meetings.
That'd be helpful. And also the fact that it's a $200 purchase also puts parameters on the choice of the plaque. So I'll get in touch with the staff and with Diana to finalize this. Is everybody happy with that idea?
It sounds perfect. I mean, how much space does a plaque have? It's usually fairly small, so.
Right.
But what is our, maybe we should just for a minute talk about what we want to be on that.
I think we should.
I'm not at all clear what it is we're saying on it. I mean,
Well, the original idea was to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, which was it 2020?
Correct.
So we could say something very simple like commemorating the 50th anniversary of Earth Day and lives lost to the coronavirus pandemic or something along those lines. Or, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting to entwine the two because they happen at the same time, but you know, we'll see how everybody feels about that.
Okay, that's going to require a bit of thought just to make it flow and all that. But what I'm hearing is that we're going to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day together with the being sensitive, expressing the coronavirus happened at the same time, and to be mindful of that.
We could put the date of the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, which was April 22nd, 2020.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Emily, I'll work on some text. And I also be probably, depending on the plaque you get, limited to the wording with this, with the price of $200 and so on.
Thanks, Patty, hitting the ground running.
Yeah. Thank you.
Stephanie, one other question. We have all of these other plaques and things going in. Do we have to consult George and make sure they're of a certain font or a certain vendor or anything like that?
I mean, I think it wouldn't be a bad thing if we coordinate with you, Diana. It sounds like you may have some information, and I can certainly get it internally from clerk's office or, excuse me, city manager's office on what the already purchased plaque design is, and we can get work with you, Patty, and let you kind of take a look at that so it can be compatible. I don't think it has to look exactly the same, but might not hurt for internal consistency.
Are you guys picturing something on the tree itself or a little thing that's sitting in the ground in front of a tree?
I picture it on sitting on the ground.
I do as well. It's nailing things to trees always disturbs me. I maybe it shouldn't, but it does.
And are we going to try to get our city tree logo to be for the tree that we put it on to be our city tree once we figure out what kind of oak it is?
That's
Well,
a
it's
good
just a
idea.
sketch.
Well, do we have a history, like an archive that we can find out what that tree was?
Yeah, we can consult with our town arborist. I'm sure
Yeah.
she like a walking tree dictionary. So.
Well, we do a lot of efforts to preserve our trees, and there's been a huge amount of discussion about every single tree that had to come, that's about to come down, including historic ones. So it is a unique thing about our city, maybe more than others, that not everybody knows. So.
And if I'm remembering when we updated the heritage tree ordinance, there's actually language in there that prohibits a certain extent of nailing and or affixing things to trees that could cause a disturbance or damage.
Okay.
We'll be sensitive to that too.
Perfect.
I think in the ground is really the best way to go. And maybe something, I have a lot of, my neighbor has a lot of redwoods. It's obviously it won't be a redwood, it'll be an oak, but root systems also, we have to be mindful of that. So how that plaque, gets affixed might also, we have to consider the root system. That would be the only thing I would, I mean, the oaks tend to be fairly deep and not at the problem of like a redwood, but.
Right, they don't have surface roots like the redwoods. Also, I think you have to be mindful of, it could be a tripping hazard. So how close do you get it? That also has to be taken into consideration.
That's very true.
Do we have a heritage tree motto or any sort of thing like that that's kind of a historical motto or saying or anything?
Related to trees?
Yeah.
I mean, I can only think of more technical language, like in the general plan that references the oak woodland and the native rural character of the town. We use that term a lot in describing the town. I think you'll even find it on the town's homepage under the demographics section. So yeah, we could look towards that too.
Are we the Tree City? Are we known as the Tree City or no? Tree Town?
I know, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. We could talk to Sally, the town arborist.
Okay, I can approach her. I'll approach her and I'll let you know.
Yeah, and Patty, after this meeting, Jake and I and Ralph will follow up with you and help kind of give a little bit of structure to what was concluded at today's meeting, so you can work with us too, because ultimately, as staff, we are the ones that need to authorize the purchase of any item.
Okay,
Right, so we'll coordinate together. Yes,
Yeah,
and we'll work
absolutely.
as well. She's super helpful. She'll be a great asset, I think.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Okay.
Stephanie, can I just ask you, when it comes time to purchase the bookmark, how do I do that?
So I think the easiest way to do it is going to be an online purchase, I'm guessing, or you would do it
Can
over.
I just get reimbursed or no?
You can. I think that is a little bit, I know it sounds silly, but like a more complicated process.
Okay,
So I think the best way to do it, what we've done in the past, is if we can get like an invoice or a work order, we can do it one of two ways where, bookmark manufacturer A provides the final invoice. You can get that to us. We work with our finance department in cutting them a check to pay it. Unless they need a credit card, then we just have to take a few different steps, which we can do as well. But all of that, we need to coordinate through the finance department.
okay. So
Yeah.
I'll just let you know. Okay,
Yeah, and then when you guys are working through it, just, like I said, Jake and I will be there and we can work to facilitate that conversation with the finance department so we get payment, sooner than later. Although, sometimes it takes a bit on their end. So, we don't want to go in and ask them for payment on, June 29th or anything. We want to try to give them a little bit of advance notice. Please, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so I guess we will move on to item C then. It sounds like we're in a good place to do that, right?
So for item C, 5C on your agenda, it's in reference to the EPC ad hoc subcommittees up to date. So this item is revisiting the appointed ad hoc subcommittees that the EPC has appointed over the past, well, since it's already May, probably 8 to 12 months. So some of them have been a little bit dormant as of now. So we just wanted to outline what ad hoc subcommittees are out there, identify who the current ad hoc subcommittee members are, and if there are any changes that we would like to make to this priority of ad hoc subcommittees that you would like to designate. We can discuss it and you provide direction to staff. So I'm just going to go ahead and outline the ad hoc subcommittees to date. And I guess in reference also, as we're losing members and gaining members, this is a good time to consider the ad hoc appointments. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So the ad hoc subcommittee, there's been an ad hoc subcommittee that's appointed for the green building materials, education and outreach. This was an ad hoc subcommittee of one. It was of committee member Joseph. The goal of this ad hoc subcommittee was to create a greenhouse gas reduction measure educational materials. This was initially directed by the EPC to be implemented or to support the goals of the climate action plan. Along with this was a sustainability brochure, which has been created as well. And we were waiting on new green building laws to be in effect before actually creating these materials. The the next ad hoc subcommittee that was appointed was for the sustainability website update. At the end of last year, the EPC directed staff to work with the ad hoc subcommittee of committee member Khan to identify features on the website that needed to be updated and identify opportunities for improving accessibility and information provided on the sustainability website. The next ad hoc subcommittee appointed was for the leaf blower initial education and outreach. This ad hoc subcommittee is currently working on the educational information that's being published in the Athertonian each season. So they've done the spring, this ad hoc subcommittee currently is committee members Joseph and Carrico. They've created an article for the spring edition and are currently working on the summer edition to go out this week. And so that is that ad hoc subcommittee. The next ad hoc subcommittee is for the 2021 EPC Sustainability Work Plan Seed Paper Bookmark. And as we discussed in the previous item, this is committee member, or I'm sorry, Chair Khan and EPC intern Nasiri that are working on this. And the last one is the 2021 EPC Sustainability Work Plan Commemorative Plaque, which we've just appointed committee member Spezrow for. And I went ahead and summarized this all on a table for your discussion and possible reappointment of any of these committees and priority to any of the dormant ad hoc subcommittees if the EPC should choose. That's all. Thank you.
Well, the green building one, I think we should revisit when we have our hire. Our sustainability hire, I think that might be, and we're waiting for some things still to pass, I believe, and be more clarified. Obviously, I won't be here for the next part, so someone will need to be appointed for that.
The website is somewhat dormant. Maybe it makes sense to wait for the sustainability hire. I'm not sure. Who's the person at the town that runs the website? Or is that a contractor?
That's the city clerk who manages most of the website update.
And what's that person's
I'm
name?
sorry, Anthony Suber.
Oh, that's Anthony Suber. Okay. Well, after I finish the bookmark, I'm happy to circle back about that. One question I have is, sorry, this is unrelated, but I just want to ask it before we're not meeting. Do we brand at environmental programs committee? Do I need to put that on the bookmark, or is it just town of Atherton?
I would put EPC since it's coming from the fund.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then Jake.
So Jennifer's raising her hand. Jennifer, did you have something that you wanted to add to this?
I was just going to tell Emily that I can help with that too if she needs help following up with that.
Oh, for the website?
Yeah, just
Thank you.
whatever yeah.
That would be great. Thank you.
And as it pertains to the website, I know that our city clerk is working on a possible complete website update. And I've reached out to see if there was opportunities to work with the EPC on specifically for the sustainability website, so we can follow up and provide a more specific timeline to that moving forward.
Oh, that would be great. I agree. It needs a refresh.
Can I ask a question about the green building stuff? So I don't know what is going to happen next with the $10,000 we're applying for. So how does that even work? Can you explain how that works? If we vote on that in the city council, then who does that go to?
I think that that was to the point that you had raised earlier. Unfortunately, I just don't have the detailed information to give you specific answers to those questions, since it's sort of out of my department's purview, but I'm planning to loop back with the city manager's office and city clerks and see how that's structured for the green building or for the reach codes that you made mention of at the prior council meeting.
Yeah, because that would be good to tie that back to that effort, because there's going to be a lot of information and somebody's got actual budget for it. So whatever it ends up being.
I think it sounds like you should put it onto the items for the next meeting.
And we're in this, through the chair, in a sort of transitionary time right now as well, because if indeed the part-time sustainability coordinator consultant position is hired prior to your next regularly scheduled EPC meeting of July 11th of this year, that individual may very well be the individual helping to lead and staff his meetings. I mean, certainly will be some transition and carryover between us and the planning department and this individual, but I just don't know how that's going to look come July, since we don't know where we are in that process. But I think it's also worthwhile to note that the new part-time position, which clearly has many more hours allocated to sustainability efforts than currently allocated through us as planners in the planning department. So that those roles and responsibilities now shift from the planning department to the city clerks and city manager's office. So that may allow for a little bit more of a cohesive type of discussion, like for example, with the PCE and reach code green building items, since it's all falling under one umbrella, if you will.
So it sounds like the ad hoc subcommittee for the green building educational material handouts is to be continued to a later date for appointment of an ad hoc subcommittee. Do I have that direction clear?
I think that's the best way to go, because it seems like there's too much that's up in the air and nothing is resolved. And maybe discuss, I would put it as an action item on the next agenda, like the next meeting, perhaps, to revisit this and kind of see where things are. Like the status of where like, did someone get hired? And if not, who would be the point person to discuss this with in the interim, if we're still waiting on the hire, and maybe the person is hired, but they haven't started yet. There's a whole bunch of things that could happen.
And then as it relates to the sustainability website update, it seems, just to clarify, Emily, you would like to stay on the ad hoc subcommittee. So no changes are being made to this subcommittee at the moment.
That's fine. It sounds like it's best to revisit that after the entire town website way forward is decided. So that'll be after I'm done with the bookmark. So that's fine. I'll just stay on it. And it sounded like Jennifer was nice enough to volunteer to help. So we can work on that together. She's okay with that. Okay. Thank you.
Great. And then for the leaf blower education outreach, as we have just done the summer Athertonian edition with Holly and Jennifer. After Holly leaves, it'll only be Jennifer. Would we like to reappoint another member to replace Holly, or would we like to just move forward as Jennifer as the ad hoc subcommittee for the fall and winter editions of the Athertonian education materials?
Jennifer, if you ever feel stuck, I'm happy to help you.
Ah, thank you. Do we need two people on that?
No, don't need them. You don't need a second person if you're comfortable moving forward alone.
That's fine, but if anybody wants to join, that's fine too.
Okay.
Actually, Patty, it would be a great opportunity for you. as a new person. I know like it's not super bad. It's writing an article. And because you're the master gardener, you might have a lot of insights into things that others, like I will say myself, my brothers are the master gardeners. They'll whip out all the Latin names of all the plants in my yard. I am not that person, but it would be great to have like someone help out, like just sort of thinking about other things that maybe we did not get in our first 2 passes.
Yeah, okay, I can do that.
That would be great, because I think it's really like it would be like your specialization.
Right, okay, that sounds good.
Okay, great. So then we'll add Patty to the ad hoc subcommittee for the leaf blower education outreach. And the last 2 ad hoc subcommittees were discussed in the last item. So we'll continue forward with Emily and Jackie on the seed paper bookmark, and Patty will work with you for the commemorative plaque.
Mhm.
Thank you all.
Okay, let's see. Oh, it'd be great. Do we go through all of them? I believe we did. All right, let me go to the right tab. I have too many tabs open. Let's see. All right, the next action item is to set and confirm the next meeting.
The next EPC meeting is set for Thursday, July 15th, 2021 at 1 p.m.
Is everyone going to be here so there'll be a quorum, or should we move the meeting forward? What would you guys like to do?
Works for me.
Okay.
I may not be able to attend actually, but if everyone else can, that's great, and I'll try to join.
So at this point, since Holly will no longer be joining us, and Councilmember Hawkins Manuelian does not constitute a quorum for the purposes of the committee, Emily and Patty, if you don't think that you will be able to attend the July 15th EPC meeting, if you could just shoot Jake and/or I an email so that we'll know in advance. And unfortunately, if we don't have a new member appointed prior to that meeting date, we will need to cancel the meeting due to a lack of quorum.
Okay. And is that, just to be clear, is that in-person meeting July 15th? Or is it still Zoom?
If I'm to answer that question right now, I'll say Zoom, but we should know more come June 15th, I think. So
Okay, thank you.
I plan to be there. I don't see a conflict on my calendar, so.
Great, thank you.
Okay, since I'm no longer the chair, I can say I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Aye.
It looks like the motion carries. It was nice spending time with you. Welcome, Patty.
Hi, thank you for everything.
You're always welcome to contact me, and I will try to find you the Robert's Rules of Order, the summary edition.
Okay, I will try to live up to the excellent standards of that. I'm not sure. It's going to take some practice.
It's kind of awkward, but you'll get used to it. And the only thing is you can't ever move something forward and just watch the clock. I'd be like, use the clock as your friend.
Got it. Okay, I'll do my best. Thank you.
Because we used to go way over, and I'm just like a stickler for like ending on time because I feel everyone's time is valuable.
Yeah, I have kids to pick up.
We all have stuff.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, thanks, guys.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Holly. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Bye.